Hi, everyone. This is Andrea Flack-Wetherald. I am so excited for this episode of the Lunch and Breathe series. As you can tell, I'm not in my usual setting. I rent space at a small place in the Strip District, and sometimes it's nice to get away from my kids and have a little bit of quiet. So that's where I am today. I see some people joining. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'll get started in just a minute once we give people some time to get on here. As a reminder, this is episode 8 in the new Lunch and Breathe series. I've been doing these every Monday at noon Eastern time. And it's just a time to take a mindful moment at the beginning of the week and just try and get the week started with intention and purpose. Spend a little bit of time talking about the topics that are on our minds right now. And it's my intention to share about these from my perspective as an improviser, as someone with a social science background, and just kind of provide some helpful, meaningful tools so that you can be purposeful in the way that you move through your life, move through your day, move through your week. So that's the purpose here. I call it Lunch and Breathe. It's like a play on the idea of a lunch and learn. So today the topic is about self-care versus self-medication. And I had a lot of time to think about this topic as a foster mom. So those of you who know me know that we had the pleasure, the honor is a better word, although they are a pleasure, but in the honor of adopting our children in July of last year. We celebrated a big milestone in our family recently, our 1-year adoption anniversary. It was a couple weeks ago. And, that has given me a lot of time to reflect on what it was like to go through 2.5 years of foster care and just the incredible uncertainty. And there really are a lot of parallels from what we were going through then and what the world is going through now. I mean, you are not in control of the decisions that most directly impact your life. You have almost no say even as a foster parent. There's no clear end in sight. There's not any clear plan of this is when the soul-crushing uncertainty will be over. There are no guarantees about what the outcomes will be. And along the way, there's a lot of expectations that you're still somehow able to be the adult that you were before you were in all of the chaos. There's still expectations that you will go to work and you will keep up with your home and take care of yourself. And obviously, this is all aside from the clear task of caring for the children, meeting their needs. Quite often, for a while, we were doing 6 or more therapy appointments a week to help the kids get caught up. So it was busy. It was scary. It was heartbreaking. I felt like I never was sure what to say. The kids had hard questions, but they were the ones going through a traumatic experience. And I was next to the trauma, but they were the ones experiencing the trauma, and I wanted to be there and support them, but it was often I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to do the wrong thing. And if you are resonating with those feelings, even though maybe you're not a foster parent or you haven't had that exact experience, I can understand why. That's very similar to what we're going through as a culture right now. So what I wanted to share about is one of the key revelations that I had as I've been reflecting on a year since our children were adopted and also everything that we're going through in the world right now. I had shared in a video about 8 things that I did to help myself be resilient during that time. And the replay of that conversation is up on my website as well. I can put the link in the comments later. But one of the things that came up was this idea of really knowing the difference between self-care and self-medicating. And especially if the option for self-medicating is socially acceptable, it is really easy for that line to get blurry and confusing on what am I doing that's actually helping myself and what am I doing that is me kind of feeding the problem, but in a way where no one's going to hold me accountable. There's not going to be anyone on the outside telling a foster mom, hey, maybe don't have Thin Mints for lunch today. They're going to joke about that sounds like a great way to handle it. The reality is that it's easy to kind of joke about things that are not serving you. And maybe you're not going to go to jail, or maybe it's not going to, like throw your life away or something, but it's not helping you right now. It's not serving you right now. And so therefore you're missing out on joy. You're missing out on what this time could be for you, right? So that's what we're talking about, the difference between self-care and self-medicating. So there's a couple of notes. If I'm looking down here, it's because I made a bunch of notes earlier because I wanted to be sure that I made a few points in our time together today. So one of them is that the socially acceptable part of this is that a lot of times right now, like at least for a lot of people in my network, we're not talking about necessarily risky behavior, but we are talking about like complacency behavior, So I wanted to offer that word to you. Are there things that you're doing? Maybe they're not risky. Maybe you're not afraid you're going to lose your home or go to jail or have your children taken away, or some of the things that we think of in very dramatic situations, but it's complacency behavior. That it's you making an agreement with yourself that says, what can I do? This is just what it is right now. What can I do? And kind of feeding the hopelessness or feeding the sadness or feeding the anxiety. So I want to offer some outlines of like how you can tell the difference, give you some examples of socially acceptable self-medicating, and just kind of then share with you what can you be doing instead to make this actionable. So the difference, self-care is about healing. Self-medicating is about avoidance. So self-care is about intention, and self-medication is about numbing. So sometimes when we're talking about socially acceptable self-medicating, sometimes the same exact behavior could be okay, could be a part of self-care if there's an intention behind it of healing, if there's a clear plan of like, this is for something. So let me give you an example. One socially acceptable form of self-medicating right now is binge watching Netflix, just like episode after episode after episode, binge watching Netflix. Maybe you guys could share in the comments. I'd love for this to feel like a conversation and not me just lecturing you. If you found anything particularly delightful on Netflix during this time, please share. I know I have watched all of Queer Eye. We're currently really into Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. So maybe you found some things. I'd love to hear from you. But this has become sort of a socially acceptable thing to do right now. Just binge watch Netflix, not deal with our feelings about what's going on in the world. If this is how it can look like self-care, and this is how it can look like self-medicating. When it looks like self-medicating, it's like, I can't handle this. This is so overwhelming. You're just like passing time in the day to get to the point where you can just crash on the couch and watch TV. Like you're phoning it in through the stuff that you're doing in the day until you can get to Netflix time. And it's like just avoiding. It's just avoiding. You just don't want to feel anything. That's how you're feeling. I don't want to feel anything. Self-care might be like, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling worried. I want to interrupt that feeling of worry, that feeling of rage, that feeling of hopelessness. I want to interrupt that. So I'm going to watch something funny. I'm going to watch something quick and funny on Netflix and get my mind, just kind of like hit the reset button in my brain. Okay. I do that sometimes in the middle of the day. I'm like, let me just quick get a little new girl infusion in my life right now. So what I hope you heard the difference there is, first of all, there could be an argument made for quantity could be a difference, but also the intention of I've noticed how I'm feeling. So very mindful, what is happening inside of me, and then setting an intention for, I want to feel better. So self-care is, I want to feel better. Self-medicating is, I don't want to feel anything. I want to feel nothing. So I hope that is a clear difference. Another thing that I want to bring up is that right now, in the middle of this pandemic, it is a perfect storm of giving each other like kind of silent permission to self-medicate right now. And there's lots of reasons. First of all, we're not, in proximity to each other to provide accountability like maybe there would have naturally been if we were in our offices or if we were in closer proximity to one another. But second of all, it's really easy for us to pretend like what's happening is that, oh, it's the pandemic. I mean, there's just constant pervasive worry. And, what's happening is you're just like reading news stories all the time. And, we're all telling ourselves that collectively what's happening is we're worried about the virus. We're worried about the virus. That's what's going on. Maybe that's true. I'm not going to deny you your reality. But what I've noticed in my life, and I wonder if this resonates with you, is that the pandemic has been a scapegoat, and it's also been a magnifying glass. It's been those two things. It's been a scapegoat. I can blame all of my anxiety and worry and angriness and meanness that I've been, dealing with, especially early on when I'm like snapping at my kids. And I hate that. I don't want to be like that. Blaming it all on the pandemic. It's all about the pandemic. So it's the scapegoat. And then it's also the magnifying glass, because it's brought to my attention some things that were there before, that are going to be there after. It has brought to my attention the need for me to do some proactive forgiveness, some proactive healing, some proactive reevaluating of things in my life. So that's a gift. That can be a good thing. It's just that if we get stuck on pretending like the angstiness and the worry and the off-balanceness and the out-of-sortsness that we're feeling, if we allow ourselves to say, oh, it's just the pandemic. What can you do? That's what everyone is going through. If we lean into that story, we will miss out on the gift, because this opportunity is here for you. There is a gift here for you. What can you be doing with this time? What is the universe offering you right now? And if we get stuck just kind of feeling like, it's just the pandemic, then we'll miss out on the opportunity to do that really important work. So I want to invite that into the conversation, because I think it's good to ask yourself, in what ways am I allowing the pandemic to be the scapegoat? What am I avoiding, right? What am I avoiding? When I say that my anger and my fear and my worry is about this, is it? Or is this just what it's about right now? Has there always been a tendency for you to have something to be worried about? Maybe now's a good time to ask yourself, is that what I want for myself? For there to always be a tragedy, for there to always be a crisis, for there to always be a thing that I am so worried about, so overwhelmed by. It's never the right time for me to do XYZ because of this chaos. So is the pandemic what you're worried about? Or is this just your present chaos? I think that's a very important question to ask. And I think that this time can be very illuminating about areas in our life that are opportunities for growth. And how do we get to that growth? Through proactive forgiveness, proactive reevaluation, proactive healing. And if you're hearing me say this and you're like, that sounds very abstract. It sounds nice, but how does one do that? Please DM me or leave a note in the comments, and I will send you a free download. No sales pitch, no need to do anything. Just a free download that I created about identifying your purpose. What do you really want? And kind of walking you through some of that proactive forgiveness, proactive healing work. That's a great use of your time right now. So let's talk about some examples of what socially acceptable self-medicating could be. So I've already talked about Netflix, but it's even just like binging on junk food. It's even hours on social media. I saw a really disappointing statistic about quantities of time spent on Instagram. There's a place in the Instagram app where it will tell you how much your usage, it will tell you how much time you spend. And so I was seeing something about just obviously the quantity of time people are spending there right now. Once again, if your intention is, I'm going to find some Instagram accounts that are inspiring, people that are putting light and love into the world right now, great, fill your heart with that. But if you're numbing and you're looking at meme after meme after meme of people, joking about the hopelessness, joking about the fact that it's the apocalypse, and you're just filling your brain with that, well, then what is that? That is socially acceptable self-medicating. You just want to join the commiserating and not feel the fear and the anxiety and the worry that you're having. That's self-medicating. That is numbing behavior. So what can we do instead? I want to talk about unnumbing now. So the first thing to do instead is when you feel tempted to get into these unproductive, maybe not risky, but certainly complacency behaviors that are not productive and you're aware of them. You're aware of what those things are for you. Maybe it is extra drinking, because this is one thing. There's been a lot out there. Wine subscription services are exploding. They're advertising on Instagram and social media all the time. And it is getting a lot more socially acceptable to be a quote unquote functioning alcoholic. I can't believe how often I'm seeing that joked about on social media. Even recently on LinkedIn, I saw that. Yikes. Yikes. So once you've identified what might be your socially acceptable self-medicating behavior, then let's talk about unnumbing. What can you do? The first thing is, when you're tempted to do that behavior, whatever that is for you, ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? Interrupt the numbness. How am I feeling right now? And if your answer is, I'm not feeling anything, breathe for a little bit longer, because you can reconnect with that feelings place, right? And it might be pointing at, oh, I'm actually angry at someone still, or I'm feeling worried, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling disappointed about whatever it is. But give yourself place to acknowledge and allow those feelings. It's okay. It's okay. And I think especially if you're someone who is working still right now, you may be having some stability guilt, and it may be very difficult for you to know how to be human, know how to be connected to the people around you that are suffering if you are not suffering. And so there's some self-medicating that goes into that experience as well, that stability guilt experience. So the second thing is, once you've identified how you're feeling, what do I need? What do I need right now? And so maybe this could be anything. This could be so many things. I'll share that for me, I've noticed, what I need sometimes is take my own advice. You guys, I do this for a living, and I have had to get my own workbook out and sit down and be like, beep, 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 beep. What am I doing forgiveness-wise? Because I don't like how I'm feeling right now. I don't like what's going on for me. And I've literally done my own workbook to, get on a more productive mental and emotional path. So just ask yourself, what do you need right now? Because it's probably not ice cream. It might be connect with your mom. It might be reconnect with your therapist. It might be go for a walk. It might be, have an honest conversation with someone. It might be reevaluate your career path or life path. This can be a very illuminating time if we let it be. But what do you need in order to feel better? Not just to feel nothing, but to feel better. And it's worth noting that depending on where you are on the emotional scale, you might need to go through a wall of anger, and that's okay. Anger has its place. Anger is a more empowering feeling than hopelessness, and then maybe once you get through anger, maybe it's really disappointment. That's okay. Disappointment feels better than, rage. Maybe then it's just like, I don't know, like just general, maybe it's like optimism. Maybe you're not feeling like woohoo, but you're at least feeling like better than meh. So you see what I'm saying. I'm maybe not explaining this perfectly, but you can Google it. There's like an emotional scale. And so you can see that there are feelings that get better, but you do have to pass through that wall of anger. So don't shame yourself when you go through that wall. That's an important wall to hang with for a minute until you get higher on that feeling scale. So ask yourself, what do you need? I really encourage people to even do something that just tickles their curiosity in their brain. Even if it's like learn something like how to do finger knitting or a new recipe, or some of these things might be obvious, but something that feels joyful to you, that tickles that curiosity part of your brain. That will help you get into a much more problem-solving, productive headspace. And then lastly, start asking, what is the gift that's being offered to me right now? Because I can't believe how many people are reevaluating the same way that I was. I have found such camaraderie in this time of people that are also really reevaluating. It's not just about career. It's not just about job. It's about who you are on this planet, right? It's so much bigger than career transition. It's really about joy and freedom and fulfillment and living in, you've likely, if you followed my work, heard me talking about this idea of ikigai. It's a Japanese concept that means reason for being. And I've been sharing about that quite frequently lately. But there are a lot of people who are asking these questions right now, and it's not just about job title or, getting a promotion. It might ultimately, that might be like a physical thing that happens. But really, it's about that heart level work of, what am I here for? What am I here for? What am I missing out on? What story am I telling myself? Right now I'm saying, oh, well, I can't do that because of the pandemic. But surely before the pandemic, you were telling yourself that you were too old or too young or too busy or whatever. So there's always been something. So, ask yourself, what is the gift and how can I not miss out on that? And then do that reevaluation. And if it would help you to have that workbook, I call it alignment for the win. So like getting into alignment for the win, WIN, whatever is next for you, and it's, like I said, it's about your life. It's about who you are. It's about joy and fulfillment in your life. And certainly that has to do with the work that you do in the day, but it's not limited to just that. Okay, so the last thought that I wanted to leave you with this afternoon is that habits don't change as immediately as circumstances. So I'm going to say that one more time. Habits don't change as immediately as circumstances do. So the way that you're treating yourself right now, the behaviors that you are participating in more and more frequently, you're creating habits. And your circumstances might change, like whenever a vaccine is available, or I know it won't happen overnight, but my point is that this happened overnight. Like our circumstances can change quickly. But the habits that we make about the story that we tell ourselves and the things that we believe are possible for us, those habits don't change as quickly. That takes some doing. So be careful with how you're using this time, because you can use this time to cultivate behaviors that say, ugh, whatever. Look at the world. It's on fire. Why does it matter? Or you can use this time to do really important work inside of yourself and make habits not just about your behaviors, but your inside stuff, make habits about the beliefs that you have about yourself and about the world that can be very empowering and that can really give you a lot of release and a lot of joy and a lot of freedom during this time. So I just want to leave you with that. Your habits don't change as quickly as circumstances. So be careful with how you're using this time. I hope that this has been a meaningful conversation. I'll go back and check comments later. So if you are just joining or you watch the replay later, I'd love for you to comment if you have questions about this topic. If there's something that you were hoping that I would say that I didn't get to, please start the conversation. I would love for this to be more than me lecturing. I love to have the back and forth that folks have been doing, usually in the DMs, because often this is about sensitive stuff, and I understand that. But if you're willing to have a conversation, when you comment on things, it makes this video show up in your feed. And so I believe that this is a very salient topic. I believe that there are lots of people that need to hear this conversation. So I'd love for you to share this. I'd love for you to participate in a conversation publicly if you feel safe doing that, and it's okay if not. But I'd love for this to impact as many people as possible. So thank you so much for joining me. I will close for now. And I just hope that whatever happens between now and the next time we're together next Monday, I hope that you will choose to be a good steward of the gift that is being offered to you right now, because there is one. All right. Thank you guys so much for your time. And I will keep checking back for comments and questions later. Bye.